The Golden State Valkyries are officially a W team and have played their first game Friday night at Chase Center against the Los Angeles Sparks. Now, if you just stumbled across the channel, and you're like, what is this? Who is this dude? They call me Alk, Athletic Alchemy. I have been covering the Golden State Warriors for almost 10 years now. And now I will be covering the Golden State Valkyries as well. Little background on me. I used to coach basketball, train basketball players. My youngest daughter currently plays college basketball. And so I've trained her and been with her through her entire journey up to this point, obviously. And so I have a pretty good feel on the women's game. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that I've been tuned into the W and totally focused on that, but as the Caitlin Clark boom happened and I've gained more and more interest helping my daughter in studying the women's game, because the women's game is a different game. And I think that that's what I want to lead into this with is the women's game is played on the ground. It's far more physical. It's much more about angles, positioning, and footwork. And it's not about verticality and athleticism as much. And in turn, in a way, it kind of purifies the game in the sense of it's about execution and it's about skill and chemistry more than who's the bigger, faster, more athletic players on the court. But that said, again, that would be my advice is if you're just now hopping over from being a Warriors fan and you want to check out the Valkyrie, I'm here with you. Rock with me. I got you covered. But don't compare it to the NBA because it is a different game. But again, there's a purity to it and a competitiveness, a physicalness that, frankly, especially in the regular season, isn't in the NBA. So, I haven't, because the Warriors season just ended, I didn't get to do a bunch of homework on this Valkyries team, and I'm going to be learning them as we go along here. I just released a 16-minute breakdown on the first game on my Patreon. The link will be in the description. All the games will be covered there, and I will obviously tap in here on YouTube as well. I think the first most disappointing thing was that their first round pick from Lithuania is not coming over to play this season. And I was like, okay, that happens a lot more in the W because of the scale pay. And a lot of the times they're making more money in Europe anyway. And there's more pride around their country's team than there would be an opportunity in the WNBA. So I'm not shocked, but that was disappointing. But before we get into actually the players, let me rewind a little bit here. I do want to talk about the production value at Chase Center last night. I thought both from a TV standpoint and in arena, I thought it was really well done. I thought it was polished. I thought it had a good vibe to it. Even though E40 was out there looking like Shaq in a Celtics jersey, other than that, I thought the production and frankly, the excitement and the noise level in the crowd probably louder and more lit than the Warriors opener. If we want to be honest now, the context of the situation, it's the first ever Valkyries game, but I thought that they nailed the production side of things in the opener. And you saw Tiffany Hayes address the crowd about as well as I've ever seen any player address a crowd to open a season. I think that was telling to her experience on the big stage and in doing this. And she is the OG, the vet of this team, 13 years in the W. I think she's in her mid-30s and played for the Aces last year. She was the sixth woman of, what do you call it, sixth man of the year, sixth woman of the year, right? And so I think that that's kind of a big difference in that's maybe her ideal role, but you see on this newly constructed team, she's kind of the number one option. But I love her veteran OG presence, and she's a go get a bucket player. She's a really fun player to watch. I see shades of Jamal Crawford, little Lou Will, and just she's got a really dynamic handle and she finishes at the rim very dynamically. That said, that archetype of player, the kind of street ball, go get a bucket type of player, she's not going to be a floor general, right? There's going to be inefficient nights. There's going to be sloppy turnovers because that's just her style of play. But I think she is the right leader and veteran OG to have on the team, even though she's a little miscast maybe in trying to be the number one option. They start Kate Martin on Kelsey Plum, the former teammates from the Aces. And Kate Martin, very popular from Iowa, right? I like her. I like her. I don't know if I like her in that role. And that's, I think, what stuck out to me first for the Valkyrie was, and I know they have some injuries, but I think they're mostly to the bigs. I think the guards are the guards. I thought Burton might have been a better matchup on Plum. Maybe it was the familiarity because they were teammates. But asking Kate Martin to stay in front of Kelsey Plum, I thought that was the first glaring issue, and that perhaps our point of attack defense could be an issue moving forward. But to be fair to Kate, who stays in front of Kelsey Plum? She might be the most difficult player to stay in front of in the W. There's a handful of them. Kennedy Carter comes to mind, but she's in that handful of them, like where it's like, good luck staying in front of her. And then once the three ball gets to going, what she have 37 last night, and the way she skips and hops into that three, because she's such a threat to get downhill off the skips, she puts you on your heels and then she bounces back into that three. She's in her prime, and, she's the head of the snake for this Sparks team that's just huge. It's maybe because the Wolves are fresh on my mind in that Warriors series. They're kind of designed like the Wolves. You've got Plum and Hemby, a 1-2 punch offensively, surrounded by all this length and size defensively. And you saw that play out with the turnovers for the Valkyries, where they have 20 plus turnovers. Now, some of it was a lack of familiarity. The team's been together for 2 weeks, and that was the thing I didn't like offensively. You saw a lot of 5 out because, the irony is that this Valkyries team is in a lot of ways like this Warriors team, where they're undersized, right? And they're going to turn the ball over a lot, and they're going to try to, the Warriors think they're going to try to get you defensively, but there's some similarities. And the turnovers, part of it was you could just see the girls, they're not used to playing with each other yet, so that there's that. But then you also have to credit the Sparks with Rakia and Hembry, and they just have, they're jumbo. They're jumbo on the perimeter and with their wings, and then in the front court as well. And so the turnovers piled up, and that really sparked the Sparks offense, right? And then Julie Van Loo checks in off the bench, 32 years old. She is Belgian and played at Iowa State, played for the Washington Mystics a year ago, her first year in the W. Again, a lot of these overseas players, it's not like the NBA where it's like a tier down in competition. For the women, the Euro basketball and that stuff, there's a lot of ballers over there. And the first thing that stuck out to me with Van Loo was how she used screens and pick and rolls, how she was able to manipulate the screen and come off those. And then she was making skip passes. As a smaller guard, I was like, she was making some really nice skip passes. But then she looks like she's going to be the leader of this team. I talked about Tiffany Hayes, the OG veteran for sure, but I think that Van Loo is going to eventually become like the number one option and kind of like the lead of this team. Right away, you're like, oh, she's a dog. She's got the juice. And I think it was in that third quarter when the Sparks started to pull away. We're turning the ball over left and right. Plum, 17-point third quarter, just doing it all. Step back threes, getting to the line. We didn't have an answer for her. And we started sending to her, and then it opened up the weak side for the Sparks. But she went on this, back to Julie, she went on this barrage from 3-point range, right? Heat checked 3-4 in a row, let out a big scream, got the crowd lit. And so I'm excited about her. Like, she might be the one for this team this year as far as the lead guard. She's coming off the bench in this first game, but I was really impressed with her and just her as the floor general. Again, Hayes, the second scorer, Van Loo, the first scorer. We'll see how dynamic they are with the lineups. She turned the ball over a lot too. She turned the ball over a lot. And that's what did I already say this? I'm rambling a little bit here. I really didn't like how stagnant the offense was for the Valkyries. There was a lot of just standing in the corner, and there wasn't like floating to give the ball handler an open pass. And that led to a lot of the turnovers. There was a lot of stagnant offense. And again, they have to get in sync, but I also think that they have to cut better and on time. And Van Loo did have a bunch of turnovers. And it might just be who she is because she likes that skip pass as a smaller player. That's kind of an all or nothing pass. She got caught in the air a couple times, right? Um, but who else Fagbenle. Fagbenle, we got to come up with a nickname. That's a mouthful. She comes over in the supplemental draft from the Indiana Fever. And I remember, watching a bunch of Fever game last year because of obviously Caitlin. I remember thinking like, oh, why isn't she starting? Now, what was that coach's name? She's out of there now. I want to say Sears or something like that. Or was that but a lot of people didn't like the decision-making of that Indiana Fever coach last year. And Fagbenle was in and out of the lineups, but she was one of the only players that had chemistry with Caitlin Clark on the pick and roll. And so the Valkyries acquire her. It didn't work out there. 6'4" out of USC by way of, is she French? She's not American. But offensively, she's the complete package. She runs the floor. She's got good hands. She can shoot the three, so there's that. That's going to be a nice, I'd like to see the Van Loo, Fagbenle pick and roll game. And I think that that's something they can lean on. But I do, she does have her warts. There is a reason why the Fever gave her up. She's not a hub. She's not a high post passer. In the W, they like to run a lot of stuff through the bigs, unlike the NBA. She's not that. She's a finisher. She's not a hub. She's not a playmaker. Suspect decision-making, suspect floor IQ. But her physical attributes and her offensive game are really good. And I think that that's going to help them a lot because, Kate Martin, again, had to guard Plum. I thought she was gun shy offensively, but I do wonder if part of that is just the matchup with the Sparks wings being so big, because I think Kate is used to being a bigger guard wing, and that wasn't the case last night. But, she's going to be all right. If you remember her from Iowa, she's a tough bucket maker. She's a clutch bucket maker and just a really good competitor. So, she had a rough one. The youngster from, I don't know where she's from, forgive me, but she was the EuroLeague Finals MVP, 21 years old. Her name is, I believe, Carla Late. She's small. She looks about 5'6", 5'7". She's a shooter and young. She had nerves, didn't shoot well, and she kind of got bullied by Plum. She found herself on Plum as well. But all in all, I think it was a pretty good showing for this team in their debut against a Sparks team who, it's early, but looks like they're going to be a playoff team. I don't know if I'd call them a contender. We'll see what they look like when Brink returns. But I think that they're going to be a playoff team and a very good defensive team. So it's all relative. You have to keep that in mind. And let's be honest, the Valkyries, they're at a distinct disadvantage. Everything's new. New head coach, new team, everything's new, right? And so it's going to take a while to gel. But Natalie Nakase, I believe that's how you pronounce her name, coming over from the Aces. I like her. I like her vibes as a coach. When I'm not going to lie to you. When they first announced it and I saw that she was Asian, I was like, oh. And why I say that is I was like, is this marketing? Like, why did they give that? That's convenient for this Bay Area team. But then when I looked at her resume, I realized, no. She deserves every bit of this opportunity. She's got a lot of experience and she's ready for this. And so I like her demeanor, and you can tell that she is going to try to install a culture of toughness, right? And the thing with that is, if you want a culture of toughness, you got to bring in tough players. And that's not to say that the Valkyrie don't have tough players. It remains to be seen. Clearly Van Loo's tough. I think Burton looks to be really tough, right? And so you build around a handful of really tough people to build that culture. But I like her demeanor, from what I can tell right now. But yeah, those are my thoughts on this opener. I thought it went pretty well, and it was they've got to be competitive. I don't think anybody expects them to make the playoffs or be that good in this opening season. But if they can compete, be competitive in the games, and have some fun players, a fun style of play, I believe that's the goal. Underdog, they're running it through these playoffs. I've talked about all the boosts and bonuses, and now that the W is back in action, that's the best place to play your picks is with Underdog. And so click the link in the description, use the code Alchemy, get a 50% bonus on your first deposit up to 1,000 credits. Stay tuned. I'm going to still give you picks throughout the NBA playoffs, and now we'll have W picks, and I'm sure they're going to start to run boosts for that. But yeah, man, I'm excited to cover this. And again, if you're just now tuning into the W or looking for something, because I get it, the NBA playoffs are really good right now, but that dries up, and then you want that basketball fix. I encourage you that, to latch on to the W and give it an opportunity. Don't compare it directly to the NBA. It's something in itself, and there's a lot of storylines, a lot of drama behind the scenes, because you basically kind of have like co-ed locker rooms, if you know what I'm getting at here, right? And so that adds to the drama, the storyline, because it's such a short season. Each game means more because they only play twice a week. They play harder and more physical. And so, yeah, you're not going to see these huge dunks, and there's going to be some funny, funky stuff that you see out there, the way that some of these women move. But I think overall it's becoming a really good product. And there's no better time than now to hop on board with this new Valkyries team and represent the Bay. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.